Hello. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to another Thursday night live stream with the Living Room Community Art Studio. My name is Mary Kay, and I guess I'm your host for this evening. I guess I'm your host every evening, but that may change. It has changed up in the past, and it may change up again in the future. We don't know. We don't know. But for tonight, you're stuck with me. Thank you so much for joining us. And to everyone who's joining live, thank you for being here. For everyone who might be watching once this has been archived, hi, how you doing? Hello. Oh my goodness. Some folks in the chat. It's so good to see you there. Hello, Kathy. And you know what? Here's a little bit about what this is going to look like in case you're new to the live stream, in case perhaps you're jumping on and wanting to chat for the first time. Hello, One Hummingbird Lane. Hello. This is what a live stream archive looks like with the living room. We gather together. You might have art supplies at home. You might be working on something of your own. You might be joining me in tonight's theme, which is what bright looks like through art journaling. Yep, we're going to be getting some art journaling done tonight. So you might want to do that with me, but you might be wanting to do your very own thing. That's okay. You might be joining us and not wanting to make art at all. Maybe you need to gather up some inspiration or, build up that creative fuel. So perhaps you just want to listen along and watch and enjoy the conversations I have with folks in the chat. If you want to participate in the chat, you just need to be logged into your YouTube account. And if I see you in the chat, I see you in the chat, like, hello, Anthony. And oh, heart that user. It's Sam. Sam, as you see, I will be looking at the chat and saying hi to folks and sparking up some conversations with our community, almost as if we were sharing space together in person, right? Just like at the studio space we used to have at 149 Simcoe Street, or if we were out with the mobile art hive in community. We love having a good conversation here. We love learning about what you're working on. We love learning about just how life is, and if there's anything that's getting in the way of your creativity, or perhaps things that are actually helping your creativity and inspiring you to do new and wonderful things. Take those creative risks. All of that we love. But if you're not up to participating in the chat, that's okay. Won't hold that against you. We know you're out there and we appreciate you being here all the same. So thank you. And Brenda's back. Woohoo! Hello. All right. So this is fantastic. Now, just like in the studio space, safer space rules apply, guidelines really, because we're online, we try to be supportive of one another, encouraging. We negotiate consent as best we can in an online platform. If anything bugs you or makes you feel weird, let me know. You can hold me accountable. You can shout out in the messages online in the conversation, or you can send me an email at info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org afterwards. And you know what? I'll follow up because these experiences, as is every art hive experience for me, I learn and I grow and I become better for being in community with you. So just keep that in mind. If you're thinking, oh, it's not that bad, it's bad enough already. So let me know and I will help, or I will change, or I will learn, and I will grow. And we all will, really, as a result of that. So thank you in advance. I'm seeing some fancy emojis coming up in the the emoji thing on YouTube is we used, and long story. Have fun, folks. That's a part of the creativity too, isn't it, of a live stream? So again, this is our live stream art hive for the Living Room Community Art Studio. Things look a little different sometimes here than they used to when on our last live streaming platform. We just roll with it and we grow and we get creative. Now, how is everyone doing out there tonight? Yeah? What are folks working on? What are you excited about? What are you inspired by? Is there anything you'd like me to know about, perhaps to use in later or future live streams? I love that. I'm always up for that. Send us your suggestions. As I mentioned off the top, tonight's theme we're working on is what bright looks like. And the tool or the technique I drew out of our jar here to use was art journaling. So we're going to explore that. And let's, yeah, why not? Let's get started. Okay, here we go. So this is a page I was working on earlier. Some of you folks might have seen it. Now, when it comes to art journaling, I am kind of, okay, here's the thing. There are so many amazing tools and materials and fancy things out there you can use to art journal with. And I know some of you in the chat, I'm looking at you folks. Oh, yes. Oh, nice. Oh, excellent. Some of you in the chat have had lots of fun using all sorts of different techniques in your art journaling, and I want to hear about them all. But for me, I kind of like keeping things simple sometimes. I like using the materials that I have on hand. Sometimes I might be a bit fancy, but I really like the idea of just using what we have around us to create and not having to rely on super expensive stuff or things you might not be able to find around where you're at. So for me, art journaling starts with using simple materials and doing whatever feels right in the moment. Oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna take a break to catch up with some of the things. So put a pin in it, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm looking to say Kathy's exploring origami right now. Yeah, it's fun so far. I love origami. Until my fingers start to hurt a little bit, and then I need to take a break. And oh, that's nice. How did you get the little writing? The little writing like here? So Ashley's asking how I got the little writing. Like I'm gonna see it, I'm gonna point like over here or the writing behind. The writing behind is an old book page. That is one of my favorite go-to art supplies to have around. Old encyclopedias, things that are out of date that no one wants. Often you can find things like this at library, like Friends of the Library sales, or even in thrift stores when people don't want them anymore. If I could get my hands on a phone book, an old school phone book, I might use that. I love inserts in, like sort of ad magazines that are sent by. I love using anything that can absorb or support a medium of any kind. Anything I can write on, I love to use, and I will stash it. And sometimes I need to go through to just actually let go of some things. That's how much I love holding on to things like this, and they do take up space. But that's what it is. So the writing behind. So yes, clarification from Ashley. That might be the encyclopedia page that you're seeing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I didn't jelly plate it. I decided to just free paint, just have fun with it. And I actually started this in our Zoom group, which happens every Wednesday morning around 10 a.m. unless I'm taking a break, which I might do from time to time. So keep an eye on the calendar and our Facebook events page if you want to keep up with that. Um, yeah, I decided just to so I think I started off with watercolor on this, and I happened to have like a pen that I thought was waterproof, but if you're looking, you can see that it kind of is bleeding a little bit when I add it in the water. I took some of that glassine paper that you can more often than not find when you buy a cookie from a bakery. It's going to be wrapped in this paper. It's not treated at all. It just happens to be kind of glossy and kind of transparent. And yep, I think I've mentioned it in almost every live stream of 2023. I am in love with this paper. It holds ink, it holds color, you can crayon on it, you can do just about anything and everything. I know it's a bit nerdy, but I'm in love with it. So save your cookie wrappers, I guess. And let's see. Oh, oh, that's right. So our Wednesday Zooms, thanks for bringing me back on track, Ashley. So Wednesday Zooms at 10 a.m. Eastern time, uh, or Central time. Sometimes I don't know what that is. Toronto folks, huh? GTA folks, we're so centered in our important selves over here. Um, it happens at that 10 a.m. GTA time. And that's when we make art together on Zoom and we discuss the themes and we really dig into things a little bit. And let me tell you, and I know I will start making art soon. I'm just so excited to see you folks. Uh, there were a lot of really interesting things that came up again, and not things that I'd expected. So, what did I have? I make notes every little once in a while. So, some of the notes. Let's see how we got here. We have, yes, so the idea of course, brightening up. All the phrases we use bright in, bright idea, brighten up, look on the bright side. There's all those sort of things that come to mind. But then there's also just the plain old fact of sunshine, light, our lives brightening up, maybe with, daylight saving time being switched all around. The upside, of course, to that slightly unsettled feeling that myself and maybe some of you are having is that there will be more daylight for us. We will be using that daylight more and more. And hopefully one day, I don't know where you are watching this, but here it's still kind of chilly. Uh, Spring will be here and we'll be able to be outside more often. And for us, that also means being out with the mobile art hive. What do I want to do with this? I am going to do a little warm up as I chat with you because otherwise I'm just going to keep on talking so I can talk as I draw. And I'm just going to start with uh, I'm going to start with a little bit of a Linda Berry spiral, but my own take on it for the purpose of this page. And I'm just going to outline the book page that I've stuck into this ordinary book because, oh yeah, that's where I was. I really do like using what I have. So I know there are so many amazing things out there online, but for me, art journaling starts with needing to get something out. Get something out of your head onto the page. And when you do that, you never know where it'll take you. So I started this in the Zoom and the bright idea, all the conversations about bright ideas and what it means. And of course, what the opposite is, what it means to have shade, what it means to have quiet, what it means to have the darkness to rejuvenate, to come into the light again. There was also talk of just, I don't know how we came around to this, quite honestly. But Rick Steves came up. So some of you might be smiling if you know who Rick Steves is. I think of him like the Bob Ross of travel. And he travels, he puts his shows on PBS and takes you on the journey with him. And he's very down to earth and humble and like a hippie, just lovely, soft, gentle, kind. He also loves travel for political, travel as a political act, and has done some really beautiful and insightful work and lectures that everyone can find online. But he came up, and I'm trying to remember how he came up in the conversation about brightness. I'm not sure. Maybe it was about softness. Maybe it was about the idea of, what it means to brighten up a life and the things that brighten up our lives, artwork, where we create artwork, how we display artwork, how we curate our lives to include more art in our lives. Here I go. I'm talking a whole lot out there. Folks, feel free if you've got questions or you have thoughts, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I will talk this whole time, right? I need you. I need the community to give a little bit. But yeah, it was a really, really interesting chat. And again, when we think about what bright looks like, that's another thing too. We're getting into the realm of sensation, aren't we? And that's part of why I'm doing this right now. Just drawing lines, just focusing on the line and nothing else. Kind of like that game of Operation where you're trying not to touch the sides unless it goes buzz. You can do that with this again too. It becomes like a mindful act. Ooh, there we go. I went off the page. Trying not to disconnect, just letting the line happen and taking your time with it. And perhaps if I wasn't chatting with y'all, I would be into this completely. And it's a thing you can get into quite completely. So thank you for that. Oh yeah, so that's part of what inspired this page, just revisiting the Bob Ross, the Rick Steves of Bob Ross of travel, Rick Steves. As I was watercoloring, as happens sometimes, all these little blurbs and blotches of color began to remind me of a map, of a geological kind of survey map. When you look down and you see the mountains, and maybe it's called something else. I don't know if I'm getting that right. But just seeing it reminded me of that. So perhaps that's another reason why Rick Steves came up. You never know what will come into conversation at the living room. You just never know. And it is a bright page. Think color. I mean, that's obviously another theme that comes into mind. So wherever you are right now, working on whatever you're working on, I want you to play with color. How about that as an invitation? You might be doing it with different mediums. That's fine. As you create, let's open up that part of our brains and consider what bright looks like and how bright might be entering into our work or maybe being kept out of our work. Because again, as lovely as bright is and bold and luminous and shining and all of those things, sometimes the darkness, having that shade, that quiet place to go to, the opposite of a loud, bright color, is important too. Helps make space and helps us appreciate the bright a little bit more. All right. So I started this a little earlier. This came from another dictionary. another, but it has a different quality of paper that actually holds up really well to some of the inks I had at hand. And I know I said don't need fancy things, and inks to me can sometimes be a fancy thing, but uh, as you see, I'm no expert. I'm very much a accidental artist. Just like I'm an accidental business person who started the living room as a charity, didn't intend to, just sort of happened. I'm kind of that way with art as well. So wherever you are, I encourage you also to let go of that inner critic and just have fun. A little reminder that while we might learn things together here, as we always do, I'm not here necessarily to teach you anything. I'm no expert. I'm only an expert in how I feel. And this is just about playing and getting creative and seeing what happens. And for me, sometimes what happens is I make a mess. I make an absolute mess. And that's okay. Sometimes you need to make a mess. So, the other things I've gathered here, I've gathered a few random bits and pieces. What do I have? Oh, there was something else I had here too. Oh, it escaped. I was just looking for things that I enjoyed pulling things out from my pile of lovely bits and pieces. I have some old things that I have jelly plated in the past. So, for example, I've got this. This is a piece that I jelly plated. Again, just designs and playing with color. This to me screams bright. Have some collage materials on hand. And I did have a cat. I had a cat here. But you know, cats, they never do what you want to do. And mine has somehow escaped. I'm not even joking. The cat collage piece I had as where have you gone? I don't know. It's gone. It's gone, folks. So it might show up later on through the live stream. It's very possible that that will happen. For now, we're just gonna play with color. So again, using whatever materials you have on hand. I've got some more watercolors here. I have some tempera paints as well. And these are tempera paints are also sometimes people ask about what tempera paints are. Tempera paints are usually uh, they can be water based. They can be oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes non-toxic. Children often use tempera paints because they wash out of things a little easier than acrylic paints. They're often sometimes known as, and I hope I'm saying this right, gouache. Gouache paints are often used in posters. They have a kind of matte finish to them, but a lot of bright color, and they can be used in a lot of different ways. And I think I just really dig the matteness of them, right? I love that they can be played around with, and they're not that expensive. That's another thing too. And sometimes gouache is just a fancy way of saying tempera. So that's another thing. Has anyone else out there worked with gouache? If you have, let me know how you feel about them. Gouache paints. Boop, 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 boop. And these ones I'm using today are water-based too, so they're not going to stay fixed. So if I add some water to them, they can move around a little bit. And that's often what happens with gouache as well. You sometimes have to let them dry completely or add some kind of fixative to them because they can have kind of like a chalky matte finish, which again is kind of nice if that's what you're looking for. And I think I'm looking for that on this page because it's a bit shiny. Gonna dull it down and brighten it up at the same time. And Ashley's asking, is this a random puppy? This is a random magazine puppy. Say hello, puppy. Yes, it's beautiful though. Is that a French bulldog? Is that what that might be? Yes, in place of my kitty cat. And this is a little nod to Christine, who might be watching out there, who might be listening. At the studio, oftentimes we'd receive donations of photographs, family photographs. And sometimes we don't know how you find things, how they're donated. They just come to you. And it is a shame for me when I find photographs like that to just throw them out. I never feel quite comfortable doing that. And, there might be someone out there who doesn't want them anymore, or maybe they're no longer important, or, who knows, maybe people have uploaded them and scanned them and they don't need the physical objects anymore. There's lots of reasons why people might donate photographs, but we always love doing something with them instead of just throwing them out. And I think it was Christine and maybe M who started the trend, maybe Natasha. Hmm. Someone started it of collaging cat heads onto these family photos, not in a disrespectful way at all, just as a kind of like brightening up, bringing new life to things. So you might have a family photo, like a family and, at Disney World, and it's just something is magical happens when you turn their faces and like you give them cat heads. I don't know. Is that disrespectful? Folks, let me know. Let me know in the comments if that's disrespectful. It also allowed us to do something with them that felt a little safer rather than exposing these people in a community setting. You might stumble across them and know who they are. So there's that issue as well. So we're kind of giving new life and a little bit of privacy to these pictures as well. What do I need here? Let's see, let's get some red going on. So sometimes dogs would appear as well. Not always cats. Not always cats. I feel like I have to say that. Okay, so let's see what happens. So what else do I want to do with this? Should I add more color? You know what? Before I do this, maybe I will. Maybe I'll be a little brave. Oh, Kathy says, so you think that's a neat idea about the collaging heads up? Yeah, the it's just something. And I think from time to time you can find photos at Value Village. It's not an unusual thing. And again, they might throw them out, but if you find them or if you have ones that you're not sure what to do with, it's a fun project. And you can do it with magazine ads as well. That's another wonderful way I feel to use magazine ads. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to add a little bit more of these alcohol inks here. Again, a little bit fancy. They're fun. Just going to experiment, see what happens. The good thing about alcohol inks is they do dry really quickly. So I'll be able to start hopefully covering them up soon. I do want to overlap these paints together and see. Oh, Ashley's asking now, were the cats wearing bow ties? Do you know what? Sometimes they were. Sometimes they were, especially if you use pages from magazines. You can find those really sometimes oddly upsetting, weird photographs of human beings posing in ways that no human being would ever pose in. And it's nice to talk back to that side of culture that assumes we should all look a certain way and be a certain way and live a certain lifestyle. It's kind of nice to play with that and rupture it by, again, cat and dog heads on these beautiful or supposedly beautiful models. And yes, so some of them often were wearing bow ties and prom dresses, high heels, the whole thing. Cats and high heels. How can I make this more? I want to bring some more color to this, but I don't want to make it too wet. Let's just see what happens. Now, I only have a limited range of inks on hand here because oftentimes I use what's been donated, and a lot of it is actually in the bus right now. So this is what I have. I'm just going to throw it on. And again, you'll know anyone who works with alcohol inks, I'm not really using them in any special way. I'm just kind of throwing them on there. It is one of my favorite things to do with art journaling, again, or any kind of art, if you know me. I do like to learn as I go. And every once in a while, it's not, of course, not a bad thing to learn how to use a medium in a correct way. But I think sometimes you learn so much from just playing, and seeing what you discover first, right? I find, at least for me, sometimes if I learn something in a very specific way, that I tend to be a little tense. When I know I'm like, what is the word? Going off script with it. If I'm doing something that maybe I shouldn't, or maybe it's not meant to be used for, uh, yeah, I don't know, I get that inner critic starts speaking up again, right? Oh, you're not doing it right. You're coloring outside the lines. There you go. I bet that sounded interesting, didn't it? So, whenever I have some materials that I'm not quite sure what to do with, as long as I know it's safe, it's nice to just jump in and see what happens. And I learn about the medium on my way with it, discover about things about maybe new ways of using it that I wouldn't normally use if I was being trained or, guided in the process. And usually, I think each one of us, and this is something I really believe, and I think it's something that maybe a lot of Art Hive folks believe, is that we do have instincts that kind of kick in when we see something happening in front of our eyes. And we want to play. That play sparks up in us again, right? And even though sometimes it can be scary, especially, I think money and finance can play a part in that. If you have some mediums and you don't know what to do with and you don't want to, you feel like you might wreck them or you might waste them. I think having respect for the mediums and the materials is beautiful as well, but it doesn't have to be the only way. Um, and that's why I love playing with materials and mediums that are inexpensive, to tell you the truth, or found objects or things that have been donated, found at yard sales, whatever it might be, because it's easier to take the creative risks. You can train your inner critic into calming down a little bit. Because otherwise, I think each one of us do have that, a voice maybe in our head. Maybe, like, let me know if I'm the only one, but that don't waste it, don't ruin it, right? There's that voice in the back of my head that just kind of speaks up from time to time that says, you're going to do it wrong and it's all going to be a mess and it's never going to be right and you're going to ruin it and it's all going to be, you're just wasting it. It's not worth it. Stop, give up, don't try it. Oh, you shouldn't do anything at all. That's how quickly sometimes that voice inside my head can spiral. And that's an old voice. That's a voice that's traveled with me for a very long time when it comes to creativity, and not just in visual art making, but in all kinds of art making, whether it's acting or singing or storytelling, dancing, especially movement, dance of any kind. There is this fear, right? The freeze up, the inner critic saying, don't do that, right? And it's nice to just rupture that every once in a while. That's what making art like this can do. Trusting your instincts and playing and not worried about making a mess. That can help rupture that voice. Uh-huh, uh-huh. And Brenda says, have you been listening to At My Art Class? Kathy says, my inner critic needs a muzzle sometimes. Yeah, yeah, you're not alone, folks, if this is what's happening. The inner, I think sometimes I talk about the inner critic so much in living room stuff. People must be sick of me talking about it, but I continue to talk about it only really because I was going to say I have one, but no, I have a choir. I have a choir of inner critics, right? And sometimes they help. Sometimes they have constructive things to say. Sometimes, well, I don't know actually. I think there's an inner appreciator and then there's an inner critic. And the inner critic is connected to a lot of, oh, not so, like some painful stuff in my life, some uncomfortable and awkward. And, it's not a lot of positive stuff in the life of my inner critic. But every once in a while, that critic might become an appreciator, or maybe call in its cousin, the appreciator. And the appreciator sometimes highlights things that I know aren't going right, but I want to spend some more time with. And it might let me know what's working alongside of that. It might say, oh, you're on to something, keep going. Or it might say, oh, that's a disaster, but there's something exciting there, keep going. And that's sometimes how I know the difference, because my inner appreciator might acknowledge that, oh, that's a hot mess, but it's interesting. It's an interesting hot mess. And sometimes my inner appreciator just says, put that aside for now. Come back to it later. You might have new eyes. You might have new perspective when you see it. And Ashley says, ooh, inner critic never. And Ashley says, Mary knows this is not true. Listen, we all have them. We all have them, right? And that's why it resonates with each one of us so much, because I think especially as an adult creator, or as we get older, or as we're aware of those, like the external eye watching and making judgments, and we haven't gotten to that place where we're free of judgment, or we're not afraid to engage with judgment. It can be, yeah, it can be difficult. It can be tricky. It can be difficult and tricky and hard and all the things. What do I want to do here? I'm going to try something else. Just because, speaking of that inner critic, let's see, what if? Can I write on this? So starting on this page. But it's interesting to know that this is something that's coming up in other people's classes, and maybe it seems like other folks are familiar with having to talk back to this inner critic. Come on, pen, I want you to work for me. There we go. Oh, it doesn't like this paper, or it doesn't like going over the ink, or it's just old, like me. I just want to scribble a bit and see if I can give this some other texture. So it seems like it's an interesting and familiar thing for a lot of people, and that kind of makes me happy because at least we know what we're working with, we know what we're dealing with when it comes up. And it is something that I think tends to pick on, the more mature artists, not mature, like just like beyond childhood. Childhood, everything is play, everything is life, everything. You don't separate making art from anything else you do. It's just another way of living, another way of expressing yourself. And that is such a beautiful thing. And I think part of what we do as creatives who've made it through, we try and reclaim that somehow. And then there are some of us out there who just never lost sight of that. And that's amazing. And it is always such a pleasure to watch someone create who's never had to deal with that, who's just is entirely free. That is beautiful. Let's go this way. I'm not sure how much this is reading. And I've chosen to use this page to create on it before I glue it down, because I will be gluing it into this book as well. So that's going to be a part of the process. And when I glue it down, something else will happen to the page. And that's actually something I want to talk about as I create too. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, folks. Uh, Art journaling as a way of processing, as a way of communicating with yourself, as a way of working things out, getting them onto the page. Because sometimes I'm me being me and human, just like everybody else. I will stumble upon those wonderful like videos about people art journaling, and it's so, they're doing these really cool things, and all these interesting add-ins, and and I feel like that's so beautiful. Like it's almost like a beautiful scrapbooking mixed media experience coming together. Um, but for me too, art journaling holds a place. There's something really simple about it. Well, simple and maybe profound. I don't know. The idea of using it as a guide, spontaneously creating and letting something emerge from the process. Um, so oftentimes starting out with just leaning a little bit into Pappy Allen's, witness writing process. Um, that idea of starting out with a question or an intention and then letting the art guide you in the process, putting it aside and letting the art guide you. So today's might have been, well, it was literally what bright looks like. And so maybe my question was, what does bright look like for me today? What do I need to know about being bright? Or what do I need to know? What does bright want me to know? What does brightness want to say? Let's see what happens if you can see that. So it's not reading very well. Let's see if I hold it up. Ooh. So again, just getting in that texture there, extra texture onto the page, just having some fun with it. And I think for me, it also helps doing something like this reminds me not to be so precious with the process. Just ruin it. But yeah, starting out with an intention rather than an idea of what I want it to look like. Obviously, today was bright, so I was drawn to throwing down some colors to see what would happen. Not a bad idea, but not the best idea either. Again, that inner appreciator in my ear was maybe saying, yeah, it's bright, but that's not there yet. Keep going. So much better than the inner critic who was telling me, Mary, you don't know what you're doing. Why are you even online like this? And then I have to say, hashtag not a teacher, not perfect. Just here making art. Some of my living room community peeps. Oh, oh, pen. And I like using this page as a backdrop because then I'll have the lovely little edges already all there waiting for me. And I'm just using a regular old notebook, really thin paper. If you wanted to get a little fancier with your art journaling, and many of you who do art journal, you already know this. You could use a sketchbook. You could use just a notebook of any kind that has paper that's a little bit stronger, a little more absorbent, that can handle things. I'm intentionally using paper that wilts and curls and gets a little weird. And this is someone in the community that inspired me. So this goes back to Barb N. Barb N, if you're out there. Um, Another artist, the first year we were open at the studio, who just was endlessly resourceful, a fantastic reminder that you don't need fancy stuff to do cool things. And sometimes when you think something is being wrecked or going in the wrong direction, like if you're working on a page and it's the paper's thin and you go through to the next page and there's a hole in the center of your page. For her, that was always an opportunity. It was like, fantastic, there's a hole in my page now. That's a window. I'm going to turn that into a window. Or, there was always a yes and philosophy. And I, I just admired that so much and I've never let that go. It's always been, again, another reminder that sometimes, yeah, start with what you have, which is another art hive principle. Dream big, start small. So yeah, tell me more, folks, if you want to, about your inner critic. Not the boss of you. You don't have to just because I asked. You don't have to. Let's see. Do I have another shade up here? Up here? Yeah. I'm having fun with this texture. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm just going with what feels right. Exploring that idea of what bright looks like. And then, of course, we get into brightness, the other metaphors. Well, folks, what do you think? Let me know. What does bright look like to you? What does art journaling look like to you? Let me know. And I'm wondering, let's see, I've got this here, so why not? I have those paints out. Now I feel bad because I'm actually enjoying this so much. It is that sense of, who was it who was talking? This listening to yourself and saying, what now? And when your brain tells you you want to do this, you go that way. It's part of, there's lots of lovely little things we can learn from that process. I remember working with oil pastels in a piece, oh, was it a few years ago now? Where it just became a whole process of what would be the wrong thing to do here and then doing it and seeing what happened. It's almost other people have too the sense of like making ugly art. Oftentimes, what we recommend to people when they're not sure what to create, when they're feeling, like I don't have anything in the tank today. It's like, okay, because oftentimes that connects to what? Having this idea of what you should do, what we should do, right? So making ugly art, making bad art can help with that, just frees you up. Oh, nice. So just back to that question of what bright looks like. Kathy's saying, I think of Bright Eyes from a movie, Planet of the Apes. I've not seen that movie. Okay, Kathy, it's going on my list. It's going on my list. Which version? Because I know there are a few out there, I think. Anyone has a recommendation? Bright Eyes. Okay. All right. Mm. Is that where the song comes from? I think of that song, the Turnaround Bright Eyes. I'm not going to sing it because my inner critic won't let me do that for you tonight. Maybe another night. Not tonight. You might hear me hum. I do that sometimes in live streams. All right, Planet of the Apes. See, isn't that an interesting connection? Finding your way, trickling association to association. And who knows this theme? I mean, is anyone out there creating art about Planet of the Apes? Inquiring minds want to know. Okay, so in clarification, it's the old school version that we're talking about here. The old school version. All right, all right. It's shocking to me sometimes what films I have not seen. Does this work? So there's just a few little notes of brightness in there, but not a fan of gel pens. I gotta say, I gotta say. All right, now what do I want to do with this next? Let's see. So, and again, feel free keep me posted. Keep me posted about what you think of when you think of what bright looks like. And again, how you love to art journal. What's your favorite thing about art journaling, folks? And if you throw it in the comments, and let's say the live stream ends and I can't get back to it, once it's been archived, I'll do my best to revisit it and answer any questions folks have. But again, if you want to connect with me, you can always reach me at info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org. And you can find us over on Instagram, Facebook, all those places too. Coffee now. We have our coffee page, which I'm excited about and can't wait to spend more time on. But again, always you can contact me, but email's probably the best. What should I do now? Oh, what should I do now? What should I do now? Okay, it's a moment. I'm taking a moment just to look. Maybe I should glue this down. Maybe I should just, for the moment, glue stick this down just so it stops curling and I can see it on a larger page. This side is nice too. Sometimes it's the back of something that just, gets just sparks that inspiration as well. I've done that with pieces of art that I've made, maybe abstract pieces or warm-up pieces, things that I hold on to. And uh and I don't, it comes to a point where I think, okay, time to let them go. But then I end up cutting them up and reusing them, repurposing them into other pieces of art, which I do. It's a lovely thing to be able to do that. See them take shape, to take form, and it like take on life in a new way. So I want to talk about Planet of the Apes now, I guess. Just trying to think of, is Bright Eyes a character? Is that a character or is it a theme? How does it tie into the movie? And chime in, anyone else out there, if you've seen Planet of the Apes and you have an idea of this reference too. I love to learn. So while I'm here, let's scribble a little bit more. I don't even know if the doggo will make it into it. I don't know if this is a doggo kind of picture anymore. Very sort of a messy brightness to this. Hmm, 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 hmm. And sometimes if you see me looking at the camera like this, I'm looking at the art. Just sort of, it's like holding it up in front of a mirror sometimes, seeing it on a monitor sometimes just sparks something new. Let's go close for a second. Hmm. I say. What do you say? No? Nothing? Okay. Hmm. Yeah, and that was me talking to the magazine cutout of a dog. I get weird like that sometimes. Oh, Kathy, so clarification. Thank you. Okay. So Kathy says, so Bright Eyes, one of the astronauts that was captured, and the chimpanzee doctor loved his bright blue eyes and named him Bright Eyes. I feel really, this seems like a movie, like a cultural reference point that I should have a better understanding of. that, without knowing much about the movie, is fascinating. Okay. All right. It's happening. It's happening. I'm going to have a movie night and watch me some Planet of the Apes. We have a very passionate movie community in the living room land. I think sometimes it's because of there are actors amongst us, and there are directors and documentarians, storytellers of all kinds. Is a documentarian a word? I don't know if it is, but hey, for today it is. We have film appreciators, yeah. People who love just it's who appreciate movies so much they want to write about it. They want to live in the world and get to know folks. People, this I love the fact that our community is so diverse, that we have all of these storytellers here. So I'm just taking this Sharpie fine liner and which I love because again they're waterproof. So this won't run. The pen underneath it might, which might add interesting things if might give an interesting texture. But I like this. And then sometimes I don't know why I like it. It just feels like it's moving in the right direction. That's it. Which maybe that's a place when we have that idea of bright idea. Maybe that's part of that bright idea journey. That it's just an idea, a spark in the distance that we follow, and we may not know why. It may not, there may be part of our brain saying that's not a good idea. Maybe that's the inner critic speaking out. But maybe that's what a bright idea is, just something that leads the way without us really having to see the rest of the path. Just one moment, one step at a time, with this little light, this firefly guiding us. I like that idea. I think last year was the first year I actually saw a firefly for the very first time. Again, another sort of pop culture reference that comes up. Everybody seems to know what a firefly is, but I don't think I had. I'd never seen one. And I was up north with the Mobile Art Hive. I think we were traveling with Driftwood Theater Company. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it was Marmara, maybe it was somewhere where the lights were dim. The night sky was bright, but dark enough that you could see, just as things were turning at twilight, from that twilight into the dark. These little pops, these little sparks of light in the sky around you, it felt very surreal. And at first I thought something was wrong with me. And then I realized that must be a firefly. I don't think I'd ever seen them before. I mean, I haven't seen one up close still. I don't know what they actually look like. I don't actually know if you can catch one in a jar, which is the trope, sort of cultural trope that I remember from childhood. If you've ever caught a firefly in a jar, let me know. Let's see what we got here. But I like that idea that they're out there. There is something quite magical about them, actually. And if you haven't seen one in your time, I hope that you get to see one. Again, another example of where conversations can take us in living room land. All right. Now, bring in a little bit of this blue. And let's see. Oh my gosh, it's 7:50 already? Oh my gosh. So this is the time when I'm going to have some fun. Oh, lovely. And Elsie, hello, Elsie, saying, I love fireflies, sparks of light they use to What? They use sparks of light to communicate? Okay. I'm that sound you're not hearing of my mouth. I'm What? Really? I think I need to do some more research. Elsie, thank you for that. Thank you. Did anyone else know that? Am I the only one who didn't know? This is kind of that point in the evening where I start thinking, okay, now I need a tattoo of a firefly. Now I need to like this has just been elevated to a whole other situation. Yes. Is that a yes to the tattoo, Elsie? Or is that they use it to Wow, okay. Maybe I should throw fireflies into the theme hat for next time. Okay, so it's one of those things to attract mates. Thank you, Elsie. I feel like we're heading into like a nature kind of a territory here with some educational content sneaking its way into the live stream. So, okay, they use the firefly light is used to attract males like birds, like how birds dance with those, I guess, yeah, the giant kind of like really uh, showy kind of shake your tail feathers kind of thing. Huh. Wow. So, okay, maybe I don't want to get a tattoo then. That kind of changes the I'll think about it. I think about it. I'll need to do some more research. A little bit of context can change everything, can't it? Ah. Oh, really? So Elsie says, yeah, go for it. My tattooist painted me a firefly forest. Wow. Okay, that's something again. The things I want to see. I'll add them onto the list. I will add that onto the list. I'm not the boss of you. Don't feel like you have to. Negotiated consent, all that. But that sounds like a gorgeous tattoo. It sounds like a gorgeous tattoo. Hey, first time here. Just wanted to say thanks for this, says Elsie. Well, thank you for being here and joining in this creative weirdness. I think tonight feels a little weird and quirky. Every week it can feel a little different. Last week felt, there was a kind of vibe of, belonging and we were like talking about grief and loss and hope. And this week I feel a little bit silly and playful. I like that feeling. It's a good feeling, and I hope we can all hold on to that feeling whenever we experience it. But thank you for being here. I hope you come back. Come back. Too needy? Maybe. Maybe a bit. But I know folks join in sometime and they call themselves lurkers sometimes. I've heard people use that. They say, I've been lurking for a while now. And you know what? That's okay. Goodness knows, I lurk. Well, okay, I have to be careful how I say this. Don't want it to become a soundbite. I was going to say I lurk a whole lot. Uh, no, maybe that's not the kind of vibe I want to put out there. But I think it's really important to feel good about when you reveal yourself in a chat or feeling those times where we just need to listen, just need to sit back and just do our thing while we're watching. I mean, that's part of the joy of this platform, I think, that can happen and we can sort of have that safety of being able to sit back and not be upfront. I don't know. I kind of like that. I appreciate that in my own life, anyways. All right. So, with a few minutes left, now's the time where I'm just going to leap in and I'm going to talk to my appreciator and I'm going to talk to my critic and I'm going to say, shut up. I'm going to try something and it might go terribly wrong, but maybe it will go right. What if? What if it goes right? Let's see. All right. The paint I put out before has gone a bit wonky. Oh, wow. So this is again that tempera gouache I was telling you about. Oh no, I don't. So critic is saying yes, yes, but no, no. I'm gonna. I don't usually use black paint. I'm gonna go for it. And Elsie's saying ha. Ha. Just wanted to touch base anyway. Someone gave me your name to check out, so this was a cool way to meet you. Thank you. That's awesome. It's nice to meet you too. Maybe one day in person we'll get to see you at a mobile art hive event or at a Zoom. No pressure. But the last minutes of this live stream will be seeing me wrestle with a tube of paint and not being able to open it. Oh, and Kathy's saying, ah, interesting, the inner critic. For me, the inner critic can stop me from chatting in the live stream. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. And if we run over, we run over. Whatever. I get that. I get that. And I'm there. I spend a lot of time in that place when I'm watching live streams and trying to open a tube of paint. Is this my, you know what? I don't want to read too much into this, but is this someone telling me don't use black paint? Okay, I can't open it. So, okay, let's try something else. And I'm just going to do this. Oh, I don't want to ruin. Oh, Sharpie. What else do I have? Watercolors, watercolors to the rescue. I know that feeling of not wanting to comment. And sometimes I feel like, oh, by the time I make the comments, they're going to talk about something else. It's not going to make sense. What if I make a spelling mistake? Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. I do like this. The paint. Sorry, sometimes I make sounds and sometimes they sound weird. So I apologize if there's weird, you do you folks. If you need to go when the time comes, you do your thing. Yeah, I have that feeling of like by the time I actually type something in, the conversation will have moved on or all the things, right? All the things. And and maybe there'll be some places where, I don't want to I don't feel safe enough to reveal that. Like, can I be goofy here? How will people respond? Every community is different, and that's okay. We get to learn what the communities are like through participating in them and watching and lurking and doing those things. Um, and of course, in comments too, it's like sending a text to someone, and you're always like, "Oh, I hope that came across right. I should probably follow that up with 100 emojis to tell them exactly what energy I'm trying to send their way." There's all these things, and I get it. That's why I try to let people know, when you're coming into this space, I'm going to role model the weirdness for you. I'm going to make the mistakes first. I'm going to be the one who says, hey, it's okay. And you know what? The joy we can get from having a place to be silly and having a place to play and talk about light stuff as well as the dark stuff, as well as letting the art hold some of the really difficult stuff in our lives. We can do both. And you never have to worry about looking weird or sounding weird or saying something like, if tell you what, here's the deal. If anything is ever coming up in the comments, and I think Ashley, if you're here, you can still back me up with this too. If I see anything where, and not so not specifically commenting with Ashley because she's done this, but more along the lines of we have this conversation a lot because I think it's not uncommon for when we're stepping out and building new relationships in new worlds. It's a vulnerable thing, right? In this space, in the living room, in person, or here, if anything ever happens, and just like I said off the top, if there are things that, I do that make you feel uncomfortable, if there's things that you do that make me go, what? I'm going to check it out. I'm going to ask. I'm going to say, is that what you meant? Is that how that is? Or, I'm going to seek clarification. And I think that's an art hive thing too. Dialogue first. We try, oh, I almost washed my brush off in my coffee, but I didn't. Uh, that's what we try to do here because we need places to practice humaning. And that's another thing we talk about sometimes that, creative humaning and what that looks like. And there aren't a whole lot of spaces out there. We have that with our friend groups. If we're really lucky, we have that with families. If we're really, really lucky, places to become ourselves, to experiment and try new things. And and I like to think that art hives in the living room, especially, and maybe, it's because this is a place that I needed for, in my own life and I wanted to see it. So I helped make it happen. Maybe that's because a lot of the folks that find us are also looking for that place where we can create a human and learn and grow and not be perfect. And experiment with letting go of what perfect looks like and what what good enough looks like, what doing our best looks like, what being human looks like, and having that compassion for ourselves. And the more we move in that direction, the more we make space for that. It's kind of like things begin to fall into place. We can stop being anxious and we can listen more effectively. We're not so caught up in ourselves anymore. Not that that's a bad thing, but I know when my anxiety is really bad, it's really hard to be present for someone else. And I have these inner dialogues with myself, spinning often with my inner critics, spinning around and around. So I literally will miss things that are happening in conversations. Um, so it's just making that place, cultivating a compassionate, soft, sometimes silly place to be, that will allow us to become ourselves, right? Oh, Brenda, thank you. Brenda's saying, thank you for helping me to carve out time for art. I find it difficult to do it at home on my own. That's why I'm here. And I have a hard time making time to make art too. It's one of the side effects sometimes of opening a community art studio that sometimes it's difficult to make art yourself because you're helping so many other people make art. So these live streams act as a time where I can sit and create. I think that's why I enjoy them so much. I can sit and create and hang out and explore these really interesting things. And sometimes really silly things, right? It can be a good place to be. I hope it always is for folks. All right. So as is often the case, in the last few minutes of the live stream, I often finally kind of click into something, and maybe it's because I stop overthinking it. Hello, inner critic, overthinking inner critic. That's my uncle overthinker inner critic there that just hangs out, in the back of the room and just manages to just say that one thing that just like deflates you. Yeah, I got one of those inner critics too. Uh, but yeah, as is often the case, sometimes towards the end of the evening, I'll be like, oh, that's what this piece of art wants to be. And slowly but surely it'll happen. So, thank you, Elsie. Elsie is saying very cool and very much needed in our community. Where will you be next? Not online, that is. That's a good question. So, uh, well, one of the places I think we're going to be, so while the weather's colder, we tend to do things with places that have space and brightness for us to be. And oftentimes that's with specific communities or specific, I hate this word, but populations. So we're going to be back on at Ontario Tech University's campus on the North Campus, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a project that we're working with that's for students and staff of Ontario Tech U, but because it's a shared campus, the library where we're working is shared with Durham College. We see a lot of Durham College students too. And every once in a while, a community member. And you know what? We're all students of life, right? But as for when we're really getting back out there, we are going to be talking about that very soon. We're going to be releasing kind of I think it might be like a summer tour, 2023 mobile art hive tour of neighborhoods in Durham region. And like the last summer was our first summer on the road. This summer we're getting the hang of it a bit and we're still continuing to experiment and we have some exciting announcements that we're going to be bringing your way very shortly. So I'd recommend keeping an eye on our website calendar and on Facebook for Facebook events. Usually, if there's an event that's open to everybody in the community, we're always going to post about it on Facebook. That's the easiest way to kind of get it out there and help spread the word because we love it. Like it's in person, like online is great, but there is something really fun about seeing people's faces and getting to see their art happen in front of my eyes. And it's how collaborations happen, right? It's how we really learn about what people want to do. Road tripping. That's it, right? Like it feels It feels like we should almost have like a concert t-shirt made for us or something. Like, why not? Li- And then our volunteers will be called roadies. And oh, I love nights like this. I love um when things get a little silly. I do love it. I don't know if you do, but it's a much needed thing sometimes. Yeah, so we will be getting out there. And if you want to learn more about that, again, you can website, Facebook. We also have an erratic newsletter that we send out. We don't like to spam people with our newsletters too much because if you're like me, you get so many emails. Um, but we do like to update people there as well. But those are the two things. And Kathy says, if the volunteers are our roadies, then the community artists are the living room's groupies. That's a mic drop moment. Oh, oh, I hope things aren't taken out of context. This live stream. We are a safe space, safer space. Negotiated consent, folks. But I love this. Yeah, and you know what? This is where ideas often happen, right? This is how we tune in to, sometimes the silly things that we say become turn into real things. So you never know where the next best idea is going to come from. And I think there's something here. I think there's something here, folks. So I'm probably going to continue working on this because I feel like, yes, I'm going to continue working on it. I want to continue working on it right now. What do I want? Oh, okay. One last thing I'm going to try. And this is paint. So you know what? If I don't like it, I can paint over it later. Let's see what's happening here. And yeah, that's sometimes how I wipe off my brush. Does anyone else do that? That's probably not the best thing to do, but it's what I do. Let's see here. How about that? I don't know. I felt called to do it. Thank you, Inner Appreciator. Thanks for showing up. Okay, maybe that's it for now. I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to stop right now, folks, because it's almost, I'm going over. And oh, interesting. So I have okay, so here we go. Elsie, I need to catch this up. So the shirts, we're just talking, looping back to the groupie, the road tour, the t-shirts, the tour shirts that we're going to obviously have to make now. The shirts, Elsie says, aren't necessary, and the roadies and the groupies get special passes. So they would be like VIP passes, kind of like backstage, back on bus, back bus. We got to figure this out somehow. You know what? I kind of like this. I kind of, is this a metaphor? Is that what we're working on here? I really like this, folks. I kind of really like this. This is this is workable. This is how it happens. And Brenda with a question. Oh, do you know a Kate who is an artist and lives on your street? Do I? Do you know what? We have for like in Oshawa, like our street has a ton of creatives on it, and I'm only just learning about them now. And sometimes I'll meet someone, usually through walking my dog, but I won't necessarily know much about them. Now that I have a bus parked in my driveway that says like mobile art hive, people sometimes ask questions, but I need to connect with this Kate. Going to look. I'm going to look for this Kate. Thank you. And if I meet this Kate, every Kate I'll meet, I'll ask, are you the artist that Brenda knows? And we'll figure it out as we go. But yeah, send me a message if you think there are people around that we need to connect with, especially if they're in our neighborhood, right? So Elsie's saying, oh, so the pass will be called back of the bus pass, special riser seating. We're gonna have to play with this, keep working this, workshopping. We're workshopping it, folks. What you're seeing in this live stream is Art Hive workshopping, oops, in action. That's what's going on here. So let's take a little close up here and see. So this is good. The black I was afraid of using is working, and I like what's happening with the gouache, the tempered gouache that I was using. It was frozen, and I thawed it out. So sometimes someone told me once, don't leave paint on, don't let paint freeze, and that might be what they're talking about. So it might have changed consistency. Some colors might have changed consistency a bit, but I kind of like what's happening here. So if the question that I was asking myself at the beginning of the night is what bright looks like, or what does bright want me to know, or what needs brightening up in my life, I should have written down the question, folks. That would have been a really great idea. But I think it's time, I might need to spend some time with this and maybe do some journaling, right? This is an art journal, so what I could do on the page opposite is just have a conversation with this piece and see what it needs, ask what it wants, and come back to it, revisit it, add new things into it. I think that's a really lovely thing about an art journal too. Instead of every page being like perfect, you know, it's nice to leave things a little unsettled sometimes. It's nice to let things be what they need to be. And, just like us, right? Works in process. Always room for a little something extra. Not necessarily improvement, just some more color, something, room for that next idea to find a way in. Yeah, 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 yeah. I like that. Like that. Yeah. Well, okay. All right. I love all of this. Thank you so much, folks, for this night. I think it is time to probably wrap up, or else I'll stay here painting. And, that's actually one of our ideas that I'll be keeping folks in the loop. We are working on an art-a-thon fundraiser for the living room. And this is the first time I've said it out loud to people. So there you go. There you have it. It's still in its early stages. But what we might be doing soon is inviting folks to sign up. Or maybe have I mentioned this? I can't remember. But inviting folks to join us on this journey. And, like as a participating artist or a group of artists to have people subscribe to sponsor you as a part of this artathon. So watch this space for more information about that. And if you're interested in participating, drop me a line again at info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org. Longest email in the world. My apologies. But yeah, you can find me there always. And folks, this is lovely. Thank you for being here. Oh my goodness. And Kathy saying this was fun. Thank you so much. And Paper Light Boy. Hey, it's good. Saying I need reminders like this sometimes. Well, so do I. You're not alone. And maybe that's a good way to leave this. The brightness in the world. We're the brightness. I don't know. Look for the fireflies. What else? There's so many lovely things to take away from tonight. And like you, Paper Light Boy, I needed this too. So I'm glad you all came by. And thank you so much for making art and chatting with me. And to everyone else who was watching and not chatting, thank you for being here too. And to folks who watch it when we're archived, thanks for being there as well. I feel the energy mostly. I believe in it. But for now, I'm going to stop talking and let everyone go on. Keep working on your art if you're in the flow. Don't let me stop you. If you want to share your art with us, you can always post a picture when I post a little catch up show and tell of what I've been working on tomorrow on our Facebook and Instagram page. Shine a light on what you do. It's worth it. Even the stuff that you think is weird or ugly or wrong or just not fully realized yet. Sometimes that is the most exciting things because we are all works in progress. And anyone, if a computer can make something perfect, what are we? I think we're special because we're so imperfect. I think that's what makes our art exciting. There. Anyways, not the first one to say that, but I feel it every single day, and that's a very much an art Hive thing. So thanks, folks, for being here. Go, enjoy, create your art, look for the fireflies, and I will see you very soon. If not in person at a event in the community, then I'll see you again next week online right here for another Thursday night live stream, or in a Wednesday morning Zoom group. There you go. Take care, folks. Have a wonderful night. Bye. Oh, and now's the point where I stumble trying to stop the stream. Bye, folks.